Alrighty, we are live.
Hey guys, welcome to Level Up session 81. And we're back here with me, Darek, and Wojtek. And today we have a very special guest, and that is Stephane Richard, or Wootha, or I don't know exactly how to pronounce it, but Wootha,
I think that's it.
Wootha, however you guys want to pronounce it. And yeah, he's an amazing artist with a really cool, vibrant and bold kind of painting style. And I guess Wojtek is showing you some of his stuff. You can check
that's
out
the website.
You can check out his website. And he's also on ArtStation, and he's worked also on a lot of great projects. And yeah, I'm just gonna introduce him and let him introduce himself. So hey Richard, how are you?
Hey everyone. Well, first thank you for getting me. It's really awesome to be here and be able to talk with you guys, especially because this event, this session you were doing since a while, I watched a lot of them, and I really get inspired by all the experiences that other artists have been sharing, and the level of group 2 has been very important to me because I've been posting quite often on this group to get feedback on my work, and yeah, so I'm very happy to be here with you guys.
Oh wow! I didn't know you were a member of the group and you were active. How come? Like how have you discovered the group? And
well, you know, so basically I had a path to where I am today, which was a bit chaotic because I'm 40, almost 41 now, and I started at 36.
Still young.
That's really interesting. That's really interesting. That's what is really unique then, and I would love to hear about your story. But let's maybe talk a little bit about where are you now, what you're doing, and where are you now in your artistic process. And then we can go way back and see how you progressed, how you chose your path. That would be great to hear. Yeah. So what are you doing now? What's the deal?
So right now I'm a freelancer because I have kids, I have family. For me, freelancing is really well adapted to the style of life that I have. So I really enjoy moving from one project to another and not working for too long on the same project. So this works really great for me. Since I've started to do really concept art, I've been working for Netflix, not directly for Netflix, but for a production Netflix, which is a Castlefire TV show, which is going to air on Netflix this summer. I've been working for Legendary Digital Network on their Titan Grave TV show. I was doing I was lead artist and doing art direction on the illustration for the show. I've been working for various projects, for YouTube Red, for various productions.
For how long have you been professional working in the industry?
Yeah, so concept art, and since a few months I'm doing more art direction, but concept art it's since 2015. So it's 2 years and a half, I guess. And before this, I was doing comic book coloring. So it all started for me when I was 36, and one day I came to a comic book event, and I had this aha moment where I realized that I always wanted to do this in my life, but I wasn't doing really that at the moment. I was working in software engineering for web development, and I just had this realization that I was wasting my life doing this, and I decided to, in a crazy moment, to commit to completely change my direction in life, and yeah, so I'm going to.
That's a big decision, right? What was your age at that time?
36.
36. Yeah, 36.
So
wow.
can I just ask quickly? Had you ever held a pencil before that? Because when I look at your stuff, it doesn't look like you just never drew for 36 years and then suddenly became.
Yeah, exactly.
Or in addition to that, would you say that maybe because this is a big issue to a lot of people who are a little bit older and trying to break in, like, would you say that your maturity as a person and your age actually helped you just understand the world and many things better, and therefore it was easier to become good at something more quickly?
Yeah, I definitely think the fact of being 36 helped me, because I had a lot of different experience before, and I've always been involved in art in a way or another, because my father was an artist, and so I always wanted to do that. But at 17, something happened in my life earlier. But at 17, basically, I decided to commit myself to music. So I've been doing a lot of music for 10 years. It's been actually my profession until I was 30. At 30, I started to have a family. It started to become quite difficult to live from music. So this is when I moved to software development. But to answer your question, I found a lot of similitude and a lot of questioning that there is behind art in general. I've been through this in music. So it really helped me to solve that in visual art.
That's really interesting. The transition from first being a musician, then something completely on the opposite side, which is software engineering, and then again another turn. So I guess you've been playing the instrument ever since, right? I've seen you playing today on Facebook on your drums. So I guess you are still kind of somewhere enjoying both.
Wojtek, I think you're trying to hack into Wootha's Squarespace.
Oh yeah, right. I hit escape. Sorry. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, since 5 years, the goal I wanted to reach, it's been you know that as an artist it require a lot of work. So since five years, basically, I really stopped music because it was very difficult for me to I'm an exclusive person. I really need to be exclusive about something to be efficient at it. So I need to stop music. This is why I stopped for the past 5 years. But it's still here, and from time to time, I'm taking my instrument and I'm enjoying having a moment of music.
So was it a sound, like, was it a noise issue? Could you not make noise around your kids, or did you have to play gigs too often? Or, like, I'm just curious, what was the reason that music was impossible, but drawing is totally fine? Because I feel like with the headphone in your studio or with the tablet in your studio, it doesn't necessarily have to be such a big difference.
Yeah, the thing with music is you have to make a lot of live events to make a living out of it. And the way where I live in France, I'm not living in Paris or in a very big city. So I had to move very, very far all the weekends from my house to be able to attend live show and so on. So on average, my average distance was like 300 kilometers from my place. So it meant that all the week I had to do repetition and work on my instrument, my technique, to be able to play music, obviously, plus doing concerts in the weekend. So basically I was never here because musicians, they are night owl. So it means that repetition, it's always in the night or in the late evening. So it's more the requirements of being a musician that were incompatible with my life as a dad, I guess.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah. I would love to hear your music. Like, do you think we can share some of your musical creations with our
what was the instrument
members?
you were playing exactly, and what was the type of the music you were doing?
I've been doing a lot of different styles. At first, I was interested in African percussion when I started, and I was 17. At age 20, I moved to Africa in Senegal for 2 years and a half to really study with a great certain kind of music I was very enjoying. And after that, I started to play jazz, folk rock, a lot of different styles. I have actually a video on my Facebook profile I posted. It's a process I did for West Studios guest artist series, and there is a music of a band of mine in here, so you guys can simply go in let me find this.
Yeah, we will link your profile in the description so you can easily find it. Your song is put in the background of the video, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. I would love to check it out. That's great. So, what made you go to software engineering? Like you wanted to make a living off of something more stable, or how do you think was that better or more?
This was the first reason. Actually, the first reason was I've always been enjoying computers since I'm like 7. We had in school, I remember this TO7 from Thomson in school, and we were learning like logo. You know, this turtle you had to program to create drawing and so on. And since I always had a passion for computers, and when I was doing music, I started to explore programmatic music and algorithmic music. So I started to dive into programming this way to start to create some sound and so on. And this is this passion started in the first place. And when it came to pick something different from music, because I've dropped out of school very early in my life at 16. And I had to study something that I was passionate about. So this is these things that came, and the thing it's really creative, software engineering, and for people who knows about that, and especially software architecture, it can be extremely creative and extremely satisfying to really solve problems and organize informations and the whole algorithmic things. It's very creative, but the truth and the reality of the industry is that the industry doesn't let you the time to be creative, because you have to be extremely efficient. So you have to use libraries that already exist. So at some point, I was very bored by software engineering because I couldn't find this first creative fire that I found into it when I started.
That's a little bit like with the concept art industry and how it's changing to being faster and faster constantly, and you have to sort of reuse existing assets, and you can say that it also limits your creativity to a certain degree. But I guess you enjoyed the visual medium a lot more than the this, I don't know if it's a drier medium, like a software engineering, like how does the creation process looks like? So what was the thing that pulled you toward concept art from the software engineering stuff?
The thing is, my father was an oil painter, and I always wanted to do that. He was a complicated person, so I've been drawing a lot when I was a kid, but I wasn't good at it. For some reason, I was failing to enjoy it and to have good results, or at least to have results I was enjoying. And it stuck with me for a long time. I knew at some point I had like this mission in the back of my head. You know, those things that your parents unconsciously they are passing things over to you.
Yeah.
And they are confined like this mission. And I knew at some point I had to do something about it. And you know, when you reach 40, there is like this moment where you are looking back at your life and trying to see what you've been accomplished. And I think this is in that moment that happened. Even though I was 36, I was looking towards this moment where I would question myself about the thing I've done in my life. And so I took that decision at that moment.
Some of the people in the chat are mentioning your, let me share my screen, your platform on your website called the Art Hacker. A lot of people are enjoying your posts, and guys, if you want to check it out, it's a really insightful resource about concept art and illustration, and you can guys find it on wootha.com/thearthacker. So just type it in there, or you can find it on the event page on our Facebook or in the description here. It's really great. How have you come to that? Let me just go back because I just went off topic a little bit here. I wanted to ask you about okay, now you started doing illustration concept art. Did you know where exactly you wanted to go, or it was more of a exploration journey for you to, or did you have artists you looked up to, or did you have anything as a goal? Because that was something that, okay, your dad was a painter, right? But he didn't do digital, so that was a new territory completely.
Yeah. So when I decided to make that move, I didn't know at that moment that I wanted to do concept art. The thing I knew is that I wanted to find a way that will allow me to be exclusive about making art in my life, visual art. And obviously the only way I experienced before, it was when I was a musician, is to make a living out of that passion. This way you can really spend all of your day to commit to this and to explore all of its extents and so on. So when I started, and this is what I'm explaining in the art hacker, the way I'm approaching the learning in general is something that I encountered in my life, because I had you can say quite a complicated childhood with a lot of complicated parents, and my father was a complicated man. But the thing is, the classical system of learning has always failed for me. I've been failing all of my life. My grades were extremely complicated. I was always the last in my class. And what I came to realize at some point is that my brain can't cope with someone telling me what I have to learn. It's something I can't.
You're not alone.
I can't do it. It's not possible. And I realized I wasn't alone. Some people are failing in their studies, not because they suck, but because the system that tried to teach them something doesn't work for them. It doesn't mean that this is bad. It's just that it can't work for everybody. We are all different. We all have a different brain. We are not learning the same way. So this is how I started to write this, to share my experience and hopefully inspire young people who want to do this but are failing for some reason, maybe to consider things from another perspective and take their education in control. Because if when someone else explains to you what you have to learn, you fail, maybe you should consider to try to teach yourself.
Yeah, that was such a good thing for me to kind of start dissecting artists that I love, what their process is, and I wasn't trying to get, I was looking for reassurance as well, and we talked a little bit about this before the session started. That we tend to always look up to somebody to tell us, yes, you're ready now. Now you can do concept art. Now you can be professional. Like, there's no such moment. And discovering that was such a big thing for me, because it enabled me to choose any path I wanted, and whatever gets me there will do, as long as the final effect is looking good and it's serving its purpose. So that's a really good point. And let's talk a little bit about your techniques and how they evolved. Maybe that's sort of dives me into that direction a little bit. Can you talk a little bit about your process and how you told us that you've been doing comic book coloring, right?
Yeah.
So how did that happen?
Well, at first, when I started, I had to find a way to learn about this. And something very valuable happened is that my boss at the moment, he was hating me and I was hating him. So we found a convenient way to break our relationship, because in France it's very complicated to get rid of someone, because the law is protecting that the salary a lot. So we found an arrangement where I moved with some money, and this is how we started all this, and it was really a good opportunity for me. So basically, I had 15 months in front of me to be able to make a living out of what I wanted to do right now. And I had to be super pragmatic about it, because with 3 kids and a family, it wasn't possible for me to take any risk and take the chance to don't have money even for 1 week at the end of these 15 months. So as I started to learn, I discovered about this specific niche in France, which is comic book coloring, where there is a lot of turnover, and a lot of artists are using this as a trampoline to just work for a couple months, for a couple years maximum, and then they start to move toward illustration and so on. I've been super pragmatic, and I decided, okay, right now it's maybe not the dream activity as an artist, because you have to work from the line art of someone else, but it taught me a lot, because basically when you're coloring, I don't know if I can, maybe I'll share my screen later, but basically you are doing like this mini composition all day long. Each new panel is a composition, so it's super interesting.
You want to share your screen?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. So on the top left, you have a green button saying screen share, and then you choose the screen you want to share, and it should be fine.
Yeah, done.
Okay, let's see if we can see it. There you go. Yes. Yeah, let's look at some art from that time.
Yeah. So this was the very, very first comic book test that I did with, I guess, yeah, this one. And I spent an incredible amount of time on this test, because I really needed to get the job. I met at that moment a publisher, and she offered me to do a test and try to see if I could do the job. And yeah.
So you basically
something.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
So when was that testing happening? Actually, like 5-6 years ago, or?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, something like 5 years ago. I think it was in 2013. Yeah, I got the job. It was great, and after that, I've been working for a lot of different publishers in France, doing this kind of colors, and it's interesting. Really, it's interesting.
Yeah.
It really definitely lacks some creativity, because you are working on top of the drawing on someone else, but you still have to solve a lot of mini compositional problems. So it's a good. I think it's a good school.
It must have been a great introduction, and sort of you could chill out a little bit. You know, you will be able to make a living, so now it's good to focus on that, getting the job done, and small steps, right? And it looks like it worked.
Yeah.
These are looking really good.
I think I think it really saved me to be pragmatic like that, because comic book coloring, at first it was extremely time consuming, because I think I didn't have the experience or the skill to be at the level of the job. So what I was doing instead, I was compensating by spending a lot of time and trying to study at the same time a lot of books to trying to understand color theory and so on, to be able to deliver a work that was up to the expectation to the publisher.
It's really interesting.
I think this.
Yeah, sorry. There is a delay, and it looks like I'm just tearing up, but there's actually a 1 or 2 second delay that makes us think you finish the sentence, and then it's just like, whoops. So sorry for that. I didn't mean.
This is what I told you. No problem. Yeah, so something I want to tell. I mean, after that we're going to move to something else. But for example, this page, I think it took me like maybe 20 hours to make. And I think in the last months where I was doing comic book coloring, I could do like 4 to 6 pages a day. So I think it's fine to spend a lot of time when you begin to something, because you're learning so much by overworking on a piece, and speed. Yeah, it definitely comes with time, I guess. I don't know if it matches your experience.
And from that moment, you started like working more with that publisher, or you got like other opportunities coming out?
So at that moment, for around 15 months, maybe 2 years, something like that, I've been doing a lot of comic book coloring, like 5, 6, 8 books a year, with various publishers in France, because we have the chance to have this niche in France in comic books. So there is a lot of work, and for publisher, it's always easier to communicate with the French. So I guess they prefer to work with French colorists. But at some point, I had to make the jump between where I was and the level I didn't have at that moment to be able to make illustration and concept art. So what I did, I took the risk. It was a risk, but I decided to do it. I took the risk to borrow 6 months of money to my bank to be able to concentrate for 6 months on nothing else but really learning the finance skill that I would need to be able to make a living out of concept art and illustration. And it was in 2014-15, over these 2 years,
nice.
from September to March.
Wow, so that's really feeling like you've put yourself in the place where you have no choice but to improve. It's really amazing to see, because I was in a really similar situation. Like, I've put myself, and life put me into the place that was just like, you either do that or no, like there's no other option really, because I was jobless, or that's just really amazing to hear that there are people that are also willing to gamble so much, because that's gambling on your own card. Nobody else really believes in you that much at the time as you believe in yourself that you can do it. So my question is, and one person asked that question before in the chat, his name is Bima, and his question is, how did you enjoy the state of suckiness, how he calls it, while still learning? And what kept you excited for improvement, and what kept you working so hard?
I saw this question by mail. This is a really interesting question. Actually, this is something I'm trying to cultivate. I'm trying to really cultivate a state where I feel very aware about how bad is my work, and because I think this is a stage which is complicated, because it generates a lot of frustration and sometimes a lot of despair, because you can't never really rely on what you've been achieving. But at the same time, I know this is the only way that I can keep motivated day after day to work hard on my work. So I've been noticing, for example, in those moments where I'm a bit anxious, or something happened in my life and I feel a bit, I'm really down in the mood. I think this is a moment where I'm learning the most out of my new productions, because I really try to get out of this emotion into what I'm doing. So I think hard work, for me, it's something I enjoy, because it's also a state of almost of oblivion of everything there is around. You can really put yourself into work for hours and try to get rid of these other things that can sometimes encompass your life. So this is how I try to do it. Hard work for me is the condition to reaching another understanding of what I'm doing, and it's also something that can only happen if I really try to understand how bad I am compared to what I can do if I fix my current mistakes. And of course, I think it's pointless to compare yourself to others, but compare yourself to the mistakes you can do and the art you can produce if you fix them. I think it's really important. At least for me, it really helped me.
So, there is a point. Darek, I think you wanted to ask a question. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, because going back to like when you were colorist and you had a job, because someone asked the question, what was your kind of next step to, to dive into like the studies? actually precisely you were doing like live painting or live drawing, because you somehow had to step, aside of coloring stuff to do more of like drawing and all the stuff that actually you are doing these days. So what was, something that in between, within 2 years, you actually became so good, in other stuff, not only coloring, more like painting and drawing stuff. So what was your way that you changed to do, in order to make yourself better?
Yeah, this is a debate we often have, and since I'm writing The Art Darker, I often have people that are a bit pissed off by the position I'm taking. But I think there is some fundamentals in arts that belongs to the larger family of visual arts, and even to some extent to arts in general. And what I've been doing at this moment, I'm going to show you what I was doing in 2014 before I started to really try to concentrate on these elements. So
for the record, that's when we started Level Up, I think.
2014, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
2014, yeah, that around that time actually.
So you leveled up sort of the same.
Yeah.
Tremendously.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Thanks. Well, this is another one from that time. Yeah, it was terrible. Because at that moment,
I love the 3-point
was
perspective.
oblivion to the what I tried to focus on. I asked myself, what allow a photographer, a film director, an architect to create these awesome visuals? It has to be something that is common and which has to be a real fundamental. Because when I hear people, I have a huge admiration for people who are excellent penciler and who draw very well. I really admire them, because actually this is something that I can't achieve for a simple reason. I hate drawing, and it really relates to my personal experience of drawing through my own father and through all it represents to me. So now I accepted this. And at that time, I didn't accept this. So I was trying to achieve things through a way that I didn't enjoy. So I was trying to draw, but I was hating that. But that's something I haven't realized yet at that moment.
Yeah.
What happened is that I started to understand that
it's not as bad.
There is. You said, sorry?
Yeah, it's not as bad, right? With time, it's like a puff of pain in the beginning, but later, you kind of get through that.
Yeah, I guess. But the thing is, like, I hate.
Not really.
Not really. He wasn't convinced.
I hate lines. That's something I realized. I hate lines. I hate lines between people. I hate lines between countries. And my brain can't cope with lines.
Wow, that's deep.
This is it. I just have to accept it. This is not the way I'm understanding the world. I'm understanding the world through volumes, through ideas, through problem solving.
So you're a painter, not a drawer.
Yeah.
So
let's see those other pieces.
Yeah. So
I've seen something.
Echo, guys.
Yeah, there's an echo. I think you have your
maybe because of
speakers turned up too much.
Yeah, I'm going to fix that.
Let's see.
Yeah, just make sure you mute YouTube if you have it open.
In the meantime, we have a lot of people watching us in the chat right now. If you guys have any questions, Stephane, let us know. Type them in. We'll try to get those out. And we're really happy you're here today with us, and we're really enjoying being a little bit more frequent with those sessions. So
absolutely.
Yeah, I cannot hear an echo now. That's good.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I think it's fixed.
Perfect.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. Okay.
So Stephane, I wanted to ask you one thing. I was on your ArtStation right now, looking through stuff, and I found this little thing called. Let me share my screen quickly. It's called Composition in Figurative Art. Really interesting. I'm sharing my screen now, so you can see it. It's a really interesting sort of chart of breaking down the artwork and its ingredients, and sort of rating it from the most important to the least important, from the most, I guess, vital to the piece, and how it's composed within other ingredients. So can you talk a little bit about this? Like, what is that exactly? This chart, what did you made it for, and how would you? There are a couple of those here. I guess you were running some lectures, or how is it going?
Yeah, these are some examples of working images and not working images with this current metaphor of image. In fact, I was trying at some point to explain visually the way I've been organizing my learning process, because this is exactly how this pyramid helped me to weight my learning choices, because I didn't have a lot of time when I was learning, because this time was very capital for me, because I couldn't possibly fail. So I had to try to decide each time I was investing a time in learning something, does it worth it? You know, am I going to really improve toward my goal, which is to become a professional and make a living out of it? Or am I going to satisfy my ego and just take the risk of failing? And in the back of my head, I already had this organization of things. It wasn't as tight as that, but this was the way I was trying to perceive things. And this abstraction layer is really what I was trying to explain. I think this is this part which is at some extent common to all forms of art, be it music, be it architecture, be it sculpture. I think artists at some point, they build a strong statement about how they see the society, how they see the world around us, and they try to communicate their own vision of the world and their own understanding of how the world works, and their questioning to other people. And I think this abstraction layer, it's the most important of all, because when you only concentrate on the technique, which lie in the detail, you tend to forget that to communicate an idea, you need first to be able to formulate it for yourself, and to have a position about the world you're living in, you want to communicate to others. And this is what I was saying about lines. I personally hate lines, but it goes beyond lines. It goes at the level of countries, it goes at the level of people. I don't like to separate people one from another. I don't like to prevent people to going from one place to another. This is my vision of the world. Nobody have to agree with it. But when I'm doing art, this is what I want to communicate. And I think it all lies in this abstraction layer. And all of this, all other layers, they are the process of making an image. How did I split the understanding I had of how an image works, and trying to understand that this dynamic layer is what allows the eye to identify patterns and colors and lighting and so on. So I don't want to put people asleep, because it's quite...
No, it's really interesting. That's why I put it up, because I think it's a really good lesson could be learned just from this chart. And yeah, go on. If you would explain this whole pyramid just a little bit for people, especially how the like drama, poetry, beauty comes out of those ingredients of the pyramid, that would be great.
So I started to question myself, what are the absolute fundamentals that every form of art have, be it writing, dance, all form of art, music. And I started to realize that there is these three components. This main component, which is beauty, which is extremely complicated to define beauty, because I mean, there is like tons of books that try themselves to explain what beauty is. So I will not pretend that I can do this, but I'm questioning myself about beauty. And drama, it's everything that happen at the emotional level between people. It's how we build story and how we tell about the emotions that people are feeling when they live together and when they have to interact one with another. And finally, there is poetry. Poetry, this is for me the subjective description of reality. This is this impossible tasks that we are all facing, which is trying to communicate the absolutely unique vision we have of the world. But at the same time, the very law of communication make it impossible in some extent to completely communicate this. So this is what I found absolutely wonderful in poetry. This is this attempt to communicate your own visions of the world, but at the same time knowing that you can't communicate it in its full extent. So people are going to interpret what you try to communicate. And from there, yeah, I try to focus on how composition can possibly have rules. I mean, why should composition have rules? It must come from somewhere. And if it comes from somewhere, it has to come from the world around us. So I started to dive into the cognition of vision and try to understand how, through readings, how our brain is coping with visual signals and what makes it capable to identify a shape among a noise of light, basically, which is coming from the external world. And I think that composition really relates to this, to our ability as a species who survive in an environment where identifying a snake in half a second, even though we haven't seen a snake for maybe 10 years, can make the difference between life and death. Mm-hmm. And I think composition really relates to this, to our ability to organize these visual signals, to capture the attention of the viewer and making believe our story and believe that what we are trying to say is actually out of the real world.
That's great. That's a great description of like what art, like how it should be constructed and how to break it down in order to tell the story you want to tell with the best possible technique. How would you use that chart to, because there is, let me open it up here. There are some charts in here that are showing how it works when the image is actually broken, right? How the chart looks like. Can you talk a little bit about identifying problems with your own work with that chart or with that hierarchy?
Yeah.
How did it help you?
It helped me to actually the issue I often have is that I'm my worst student. So most of the time I'm working on an image up to the point where I realize that I've been forgetting about this chart. So my own journey towards this ideal is very, very, very long, and I think infinite. And I think I'm just at the beginning of understanding this chart in my own work. But the way it really helped me to try to avoid the technique trap and try to make images based on the goal I want to achieve and not on the technique I should be using in order to please the internet or to please other people. And it really helped me at some point just to also to feel comfortable, because I think with the actual state of the internet and the overemphasis there is on technique, because people really love to see this time lapse of amazing pieces that come together from nothing and through drawing and through painting, which I also enjoy myself. I think this is in itself a form of art, which is amazing. But I had to get rid of that because of my own story. Drawing is just a pain. So I had to find another way to organize the way I was constructing images by focusing on more fundamental elements. This way, I've been able. It helped me to turn the craft of an image into a problem solving, basically. So this is why I developed this technique about using a lot of 3D, because I feel more comfortable with 3D. And in the meantime, I really love when things look painterly, because I think in the back of my head, I'm still this little kid who wants to paint as well as his father. So this is why I'm painting a lot of my 3D to really bring this edge toward shape ratio, texture versus visual resting area, which really exists in painting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there is a question about the 3D workflow you're using. When exactly did you discover that you actually prefer to do stuff in 3D and then make it into the line work, or first do the 3D model, then make it into the painting? When did you found about 3D and how it helped you, or how did you discover that it was your tool?
I think right from the beginning, because I was at that moment involved in software engineering, I immediately felt attracted by 3D because it was kind of a geek thing. So this is where my first attention have been drawn. So I started to take a subscription to Gnomon Workshop and to learn a lot about 3D, and especially the rendering parts and all that was referring to the understanding of materials and all the physical world works. So since the beginning, I've been interested in 3D. But I've been struggling a lot for like the first 2 years with my legitimacy about working in 3D, because I felt a bit, I don't know, like if I was a cheater or something like
guilt.
that. So,
right.
Yeah, guilt, exactly. And this is when I took this 6 months I was talking about in 2014, 2015, where I really committed to just find the more pragmatic way to approach image making for me. So it's the most efficient way for me, and it was obviously for me to go through 3D because I simply enjoyed that medium.
So you mostly use 3D for like architectural stuff, or even art characters, or is like more of like your daily work?
Yeah, can you show a little bit of images
just examples
that you use 3D for?
Pretty much on my I don't know if we are on my screen right now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So pretty much every piece of work that is in my portfolio is a 3D. So this one is started as a 3D. Yeah, this one is 3D. There is a lot of paint over, because once I have my composition and I start to understand the volumes, and I can have a representation of all things exist in the 3D world, it starts to become easier for me to paint over things. But yeah, this one is 3D.
So you mostly use it for like more of like a block out kind of process and then just fully paint, going crazy with painting, or you kind of go into more elaborate way with putting textures and building everything, and then just put some final touches in Photoshop to make it look painterly?
Well, this has been a long struggle for me to find the right balance, because at first I was attracted by the power of 3D to make everything in 3D, but at some point I did. It's not this piece. I don't know if I have it in here.
That's crazy, because
it was a 3D piece I did. It was totally crazy. I spent like 150 years on this piece, and I was hating this piece. I reached this point where I wanted to vomit this piece. I spent so much time.
That's when you know it's done. When you want to just.
I thought that's every piece we ever do.
I love the one with the dragon and the girl laying inside of its mouth. It's amazing.
I think
this one is
there you go.
Started out of 3D too. But
so can you tell us
what I try to do is.
Oops.
Yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead. Can you talk a little bit about this picture?
Yeah, so this one started completely as 3D, but what I try to do now in my work is to find the bare minimum point of 3D where I know I can go and feel comfortable with painting later in Photoshop. So I tend to simplify my 3D more and more, I try to work very low res, and I don't do any texturing in 3D. I don't do any materials in 3D. I just render a mate pass and a reflection pass, just to have the information so I can build the materials and the texture in Photoshop, which I enjoy more.
But you do choose your light source and point and direction, so you have like a block value kind of thing. You know where the light is going to hit, or do you do it just like ambient occlusion flat and then you paint in the light in Photoshop?
No, I really do the lighting in Keyshot actually, because I really love this approach, which is, I think it belongs more to photography, where you're just designing how the light is working with your volumes. And I enjoy also the bounce light in Keyshot. I really like this diffuse result of bouncing light. I think it's really, for me, how can I say that? It's juicy, so it stimulates my creativity when I see that, whether as when I have to build everything from scratch, I start to struggle with my own technical limitations, which obfuscates the creative goal, which is to tell a story about a setting. So this is why I really try to define the lighting in Keyshot.
So what about the characters? For instance, going back to that picture with the dragon, did you actually model the girl character, or you just pick that up from like some I don't know, DAS, or it was more like a photo study? Or can you maybe elaborate on that?
Yeah, I try to be super pragmatic. So if I have something that already exists in real life in 3D and that I can reuse, I'm going to do it most of the time, because I want to find the fastest path that can allow me to tell a story. So here, like, this skull is a skull I bought from I don't know the store, but it's a store that is doing what is 3D scan. I think it's from 3D scan. A skull from 3D scan. This girl, it was first a 3D that's 3D model that I posed. I sculpted the dragon because I didn't have the proper dragon for it. I sculpted the teeth and so on, the rocks. But for example, this one which is not an image I'm really liking right now. But anyway, this is all sculpted from scratch because it was for a tutorial. So I wanted to explain the process of sculpting. So it really depends. But the thing of sculpting everything from scratch is, for me, apart from enjoying the process of sculpting, I think on the final result, it doesn't help me to tell story differently. So
you can't even tell.
That's actually incredible. When you look at your pictures, it all looks like painting. Yeah, it's like a painting, right?
Yeah.
And then you realize you just 3D bezel. It's amazing, actually.
Yeah. Just because it doesn't matter, right? As long as
it's just another tool, right? And
it's your
unified,
way of
and that's your way of doing stuff. So it's really cool to see. Actually, I wouldn't ever tell. But, yeah.
Well, I'm personally really enjoying. As I said, I don't have any grief about. At the contrary, I have a huge admiration for people who are building everything from scratch. I just know that right now, where I am in my life and where I am in my own struggle with art, I just know it's not the moment for me to tackle this challenge. I'm trying to tackle it when I feel the inspiration and I'm doing, like, for a week, I'm doing studies and I'm trying to draw a bit because I feel excited about drawing. But for professional work right now, I'm really sticking to this process because I think this is also something Wojtek mentioned. When you build a process, you start to be able to predict, not really predict, but you can tell with confidence to your clients, okay, it's going to take me 4 hours, and in 4 hours, I'm going to deliver you a sheet of thumbnails. And from this sheet of thumbnails, you can pick whatever you want, and I'm going to detail it, and I can detail in 4 more hours or 1 day per image, depending on the level of detail you want. And I think this is very important in our job. to have a process with whatever it is, painting, drawing, sculpting, whatever you want, but just having experienced this process where you tested a thing over and over because you've been working in series. I think it's really important to, at least as a freelancer, because you really need to deliver up to the expectation of the clients and to respect the delay and so on. So I don't take any risk also in my professional work for this reason.
Yeah.
That's great to hear that your technique and your path sort of translates directly to the way of the concept that is, that nowadays are really centered. So you have to be really fast needs, and everything is last minute, and everything has to be done for the yesterday. So this sort of approach gives you tools to choose. If you have more time, you can use different tools, while if you have only 2 hours, you would use different set of assets. But having that possibility to choose is great, and it gives you the freedom, and most importantly, you can be calm when approaching a job, because you know that either way, I have my tool set with me, so I can basically pick and choose whatever and engineer my own way into this job. And also, I feel like it works great with the clients too, when you can propose different solutions for different things, different paths. So we can make 2 images semi-finished. We can make it this way, but it will be more costly in terms of time. We can, but maybe there will be another benefit in there. So this is really, really cool. This is also the way I work, which is sort of, I don't know how to call it, feels like improvisation to me, but at the same time, we are similar.
I think we all should be more flexible these days, especially as you guys mentioned, everything needs to be, you know, done on yesterday. So it's like a really big time restriction, and just in order to be, you know, more efficient and still be able to kind of spam with new ideas, you kind of, you know, get more flexible with learning new tools and trying to incorporate just a bit of that into your workflow. So it's actually speed up your process.
It's just being smart and opportunistic, but in the best sense of the word, you know, instead of being stubborn or, you know.
Yeah, I'm gonna paint everything right now. But,
I love to paint. And,
yeah, you love to. But,
and this is something really interesting, Stephane, because I was learning lines too, and I enjoyed it, but only in one technique. And I really enjoyed drawing in charcoal. But any other drawing, I was like, wow, I cannot even like make a line. It's just too much, and it doesn't look nice immediately. And with charcoal, I had that sort of value control where I could almost paint with it. But nowadays, I'm like going back to lines again, and I'm like finding a lot of enjoyment in there, just because I completely abandoned and completely sort of forgot about this. And I feel like a lot of things are coming through my work that could be improved if I would understand this the way I want to right now, which is great. It just shows that everyone has their own path. And I also went from painting, like drawing in traditional, painting in digital, painting in traditional, and drawing in traditional. So it's like a full circle. And if you would go to the art school, you would first learn to draw in traditional. So an exactly opposite of what I did or what Stephane is doing, which only proves that there is no right way.
Yeah.
And what was a great message from Stephane was that make it your own way. You have to have like big balls to do it, actually.
A big lesson from this to draw is that you definitely shouldn't get caught up on what one artist says or what the other artist says. There's definitely no right way, and it's not because this guy who does great stuff is like, oh, okay, we have to just copy his technique and that's it. Exactly. You know, like you have to try, and then you have to see like, this doesn't feel right, or this does feel right. But like, if you watch all our level up sessions, you will notice that a lot of people contradict each other, actually.
Yeah, and actually, every of the guests is different, you know. Whatever sticks to someone, it might not stick to you. So if you prefer doing it that way or another, it's as far as you are efficient and as far as you are progressing, and if you kind of fulfill yourself and making, you know, making actually a good job with your clients, no one really cares how you do that, you know. So, but you need to kind of stay, you know, excited about it. Because if you try to do, I'm gonna try, let's say, I don't know, sculpting zebras right now, and maybe if you don't kind of get it, you know, if you don't kind of feel excited about it, why to do something that's not making you happy, you know? Maybe you can do it better with, I don't know, 3D code or whatever, or just draw it, or, you know, Photobash, whatever. It's just an example, right?
Yeah, so basically just try it and then be honest to yourself, and don't be stubborn about it, you know. Just
Stephane, what are you excited for when you start a piece? Like, is it in the technical? Is it in the story? Is it in the color palette? Or is it different for every piece you do?
I think it's really light. This is something I've been asking myself lately. I think this is what I enjoy so much in this process, where, and maybe if you want, in a while, I'll start a demo to show that. But I always have my keyshot windows, which is open on my second screen, and right from the beginning, as soon as I have like a very basic geometry, just like after 5 minutes of 10 minutes maximum, I'm starting to define my lighting in keyshot. And this is really what I get excited about. It's all the patterns of shadows and light and local values. If I use some, start to create an abstract composition, and all the light is interacting and start to define a real world volume over this abstract initial composition, which is just triangles and rectangles and circles. And all of a sudden, thanks to the 3D, after 15 minutes, you can start to have a real world interaction of the light, which is bouncing around, having all the nice, I forgot the word, but bounce light. And I think this is the moment where I'm the most excited by the painting, and I start to really think about the design and how the shape is going to communicate an idea about the world I want to build, if it's for clients or if it's a personal illustration, or the story is going to take place with that special mood which is created with the lighting. Is it like a 12 a.m., I mean a noon lighting, which is going to bring a lot of, you know, of weight over the characters or over the scene because the sun is very straight, or is it more of a golden hour with very long shadows that start to break the shapes into a more abstract composition. And the focal length too, this is something I love to use focal length for composition, because if you use a 200 millimeters or a 28 millimeters, it starts to create very specific patterns. I don't know if you're playing with this in your own work, where a 28 millimeters, it will start to create a lot of convergence toward the center of the image with a lot of triangles and this very nice and sexy long lines that help the eyes to go into the canvas. Or where if you use 200 millimeters, you will start to have like more abstract composition with well-defined squares and losange and yeah, this is really this moments that I personally enjoy.
Yeah, I'm really similar in that. Like I love to play around with. I think that's the most rewarding part of working in 3D, to finally open up that renderer and just like rotate the light and see how it interacts with your piece. Sometimes, yeah, that was my question exactly. Do you plan those pieces, or do you rather sketch in 3D, if you know what I mean? Like, where do you find ideas? Do you find an idea in your head first and then you realize it, or you sort of think, oh, the school is a cool element, like a lady is a nice element, let's bring those together and put a dragon in there, it will be cool, and then I can find the lighting in there? Or you have the lighting in your head from the get-go? How does it work for you?
Yeah. For ideation, actually, it really depends for me, because I really differentiate both, because on my personal work, I tend to create more stories like this one, whereas until this point, right now it's changing a bit because I'm starting to get involved more into animation, but generally I've been asked to do environment design where I have a specific brief, so the lighting is not as much as important as in a story. But I think I've been learning from this guy, his name, Christian Owens Chur. I don't know if you know this artist, and he had at that moment a fantastic set of DVD on Gnomon Workshop where he was explaining his process, and he mentioned something. It was combinatory plays, and he mentioned that this is something that was brought by, I think, Albert Einstein, the fact of simply associating together any element of nature, but the simple fact that you are going the one to decide to bring these two elements together. No one else will certainly make that same choice. So by simply combining these two elements, you start to generate potential for another important thing, which is free association. And free association is this moment where you let your subconscious, your inner memory of the world and your experience to solve the meaning of things that shouldn't come together. I mean, if you take, I don't know, something crazy like a cow and a boat, 3D model, and you start to distort them together and to crush them, at some point it's going to make no sense. And your brain is going to want to relate this nonsense to something he knows. And for me, this is when creativity happens. This is where I let this moment happen. And it's like magic. My brain simply tries to solve this shape, which makes no sense. And a story starts to come out of this.
Yeah, I can especially feel that in your latest piece, Alice in Wonderland. Can you pop it up? It's really, really awesome. How did you come up with such a funky idea? Like, this is so like...
Yeah, it's awesome.
That was great.
There is a lot of different things mixed up in this image. And this image is funny because most of people had a good reception of the piece, but some people have been completely pissed off by this image because they stopped at the first one. And they are pissed off mostly because they try to solve Alice as a 7-year-old that I'm showing with a panty and I'm showing her breast, which actually my first idea, because I have a daughter, and my first idea was to try to talk about hyper-sexualization of society and the way we tend to look at young teens start to make the difference about how they see herself. And so this piece was first about that, all this guy, for me, they symbolize the way male in the society tends to look at a teenager, and maybe the way a teenager can be scared by this adult world where your body is changing. And this is the whole point behind Alice in Wonderland. Something that I found quite incredible about the fact that Alice is meant to be 7 in the sequel of Alice in Wonderland is that actually I think most of the problematic she's going through are not problematic of a 7-year-old. For me, they are a problematic of a 14, of a 16, of a young girl, which body is changing and which society starts to look differently at her, because at some point we don't look at her like she was a child, but we look at her like she's a woman. And that moment, I think, can be super scary. So she's trying to reach back to this blue pill because now she don't want to grow up. She wants to stay in the world of the childhood where it was comfortable, and all these monsters were at that moment gentle monster. They were smiling, and maybe she didn't see that there is something else behind their look. Maybe they are looking at her for a different reason. So this was the first story, and after that I just let my brain make association, as I said, between shapes as I was building the image in Quichotte and trying to craft a lot of small symbols and to let the viewer be able to create his own story about the image, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I definitely never would have thought about this backstory. That's pretty interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, most of the time people that don't get the same story as I do, and I think this is what is amazing about crafting visual storytelling, is really to give.
By one picture, you can just actually tell more than one story. So.
Yeah, and in this one, there's a surface of the really popular sort of a story that everybody knows, but at the same time, you reinvented it somewhere on a deeper level and nested these ideas you can relate to yourself and to your own view on the world. And it's great that it's actually, once you told that, yeah, I can see it there. Like I can see that symbolism and then all of that in there. And maybe some of the people are seeing it, okay, that's an Ali's story, but at the same time, this is like such a strong composition, and these shapes and these like monstery things are so suggestive that maybe on the deeper level you kind of read it anyway. I don't know, that's kind of cool that you can sort of let your subconscious read it one way, and that's what makes a piece so that you can remember it for years. It's just that it strikes you somewhere in there and you think, oh, I don't know why, but I feel like this is cool, and most people will react like that. It's just like, wow, why do I like it so much that I can remember this piece for like 2 years, for example? Like I
guess that's because also he's putting this abstraction as the bottom layer, as the biggest base of everything, because the abstraction in that piece, even though like, specifically the images or the elements in the image are not abstract, but the concept as a whole is abstract, which allows your mind to do the free association. Because first of all, I hadn't even noticed that she was exposed nakedly. I hadn't noticed the Matrix reference in the beginning either, but all these elements together allow you to kind of like make up your own story or your own philosophy behind it. And this is what you tend to have with works that are more abstract or arbitrary in a way, but deliberately arbitrary. Like, I don't know, a David Lynch movie, for example, where people will start making up these theories that, when they interview him, he's like, I don't know what these guys are talking about. Like, I just wanted to make a trippy movie, But it allows you to do that. And that's like an extra layer that a lot of art is lacking, I think, which I really like about your stuff.
Yeah, and this will be remembered for longer, definitely. As a backstory of the picture. Because it's not just another. It's not just another.
Let's talk about this because it's really important. Sometimes, like the implied story is more important than the story itself. Like sometimes when you are too literal with the story in your piece, it kills it. So it's not a dialogue anymore with you and the viewer. It's sort of you're sort of telling, oh, this is a story, goodbye, right? Bye. You looked at it, okay, bye. And here it's
or it might be just another, nice picture. And that's all.
And then here it's a sort of an invitation to the conversation.
Yeah.
Which I prefer.
That's interesting the way you're putting it. I find a lot of I recognize really the way you're putting things. I think when you, it's interesting the way you said it. When you tell everything in your image, it's not a dialogue anymore. It's like more of a dictatorship. You are imposing your vision image to the viewer, and I think it's very aggressive, and it doesn't let the viewer to wander in your image because already has been said already.
Yeah.
And always been a proponent of thinking that my image, the interpretation of my image, that doesn't belong to me. That belong to the viewer. It's to the viewer to decide what he wants to see in this, which sometimes can be problematic because, as I said, I had like a lot of angry people writing to me lately because they didn't understood the image the way I was building it. So, but I think it's more interesting for the relationship you're building with the viewer.
Yeah, we are kind of in that era, like right now, that everything needs to be, kind of explained. The same is kind of with the movies, with all those prequels and stuff. You got everything just ready on the table. You can't just actually let your imagination go more that like it was like 30, 40 years ago.
But from a commercial standpoint, this does make perfect sense, though. And this is the very reason why, this kind of work is good for your personal work, but probably commercially you won't get the chance to do it that often.
Yeah.
Because, like, people who have money, depending on, or like, the success is depending on how people interpret it, and the wide audience has to appreciate it. You have to be very careful with the possible interpretations, because maybe you want to say something and then someone else sees it and suddenly you're like a racist or a bigot or something because someone has interpreted it in a way that you didn't intend to. So this is something that in the commercial field you have to be careful with.
It's good to have also that balance, that you can do like as Stephane is doing those personal, illustrations, and they have like a lot of, different stories, different ends that you can actually, kind of come up with the new ideas. And on the other hand, he can still do like commercial work that clients want to. So
what are those pieces? These are the ones you're working on right now?
Yeah. So this one I just finished it here.
Wow.
And I using it to promote the event right now. So I just posted it on Facebook and so on. So I started a series. Yeah, something I do for fun, and I wanted to mention, guys, that I learned a lot of this pragmatism I gain. I think you really helped me to do that. So this is a couple times I wanted to mention it in the interview. So I just want to get back to you what's belong to you. I think the things you've been created with Level Up goes for me way beyond simply creating a community about concept art. And I think the number of times that you've been with different guests mentioning the fact that it's extremely important to find your own way of creating and your own way of achieving visual storytelling and concept art. Yeah, it participated a lot in this. So it's done.
That's awesome to hear.
Yeah. It's really
so yeah, these are images I'm working on, and this one is part of a series I've been started like last week. I wanted to improve my portraits from imagination, and yeah, usually when I get excited by something, I try to do a series of like 12 pieces, something like that, because I think in the repetition of the exact same exercise, the exact same theme, I'm learning way much than jumping all over the place at each piece, doing an environment, a character, or something else.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It ended up a full character, but yeah, it started as a start of this series I'm doing right now. And this one, it's another story I'm trying to build. So it's really in the making right now. So it looks a lot 3D yet, because I haven't done this work of working on edges, texture simplification, and so on.
Wow, so it looks amazing. I love it.
Yeah.
So
I actually like this 3D look.
Yeah, I like this 3D look as well. The forums, the lighting, that's, it's touchable. It's really awesome.
I mean, I think you're going for a similar finish, like with the Alice in Wonderland type of a work you did.
Yeah, absolutely.
It feels like a series, sort of like I have the second one open on my second screen, and they sort of directly they're similar in colors, I guess, just colors and the finish. Yeah, really cool.
Yeah,
I like that surreal storytelling that provokes. There's so much happening in this picture that it's really cool to see that. I don't know. Yeah, excited to see it finished.
Yeah, thanks. This is another one, same thing, trying to, it's still very 3D at this stage, so the model, it still looks very generic because it's a model from DAZ. This one I sculpted them, over sculpted them in a ZBrush to get the kind of look I wanted. I wanted something a bit ridiculous for their aspect.
Yeah, a lot more darker. It's cool that you're exploring it, completely different lighting scenarios, and this feels more diffuse, right? Rather than super sunlight, happy light in the previous one.
Yeah. And I don't know, guys. What do you think? Should I go for demo mode, or do we have a?
Yeah, I think we have time for that. It just depends how much time do you have at hand. We can stick to whatever you like to do. Like, we will be really happy to see what you can show us, like whatever you feel would be cool. We don't have like tons of time, but something that would be a cool showcase of how
just to see how you work. Actually, this would be awesome.
Yeah. So I think I wanted to maybe do a piece from scratch, but I think we had a really nice talk right now, but maybe we use a lot of time. I wanted to maybe make this in 3D, but it might take too much time. So maybe I'm going to go through another piece I did recently and show all the steps.
Oh yeah, that would be actually great.
It could be a
yeah, people in the chat suggesting that we
5 more hours.
We'll go for another 5 hours. Yeah, sure. We would love to. Only 5, yes.
I can watch
this
the
is this
sunrise
piece
here.
recently for West Studio.
Are you also creating your own assets and kind of library of assets that you just do some rough models and then reuse them later in your production?
I do this very rarely. I actually do this for quick characters. So I have it's very fun. I love to do that. I'm going to show you these brushes I did for myself. They are here. Just a time grabbing them.
It's frozen. It might get a little bit clunky during the screen share.
That is some weird looking shit, man. But somehow you turn it into something awesome.
Yeah, that's how it is.
Yeah.
I like to see like every the scenes. Yeah, sorry, go ahead, man.
No problem. Yeah, this is because of the delay of the streaming.
Yeah, because also you are sharing. Oh, okay. I'm gonna shut up right now. So we have like pre-made assets of like poses, and then you can just stick them into the composition and build some unique one, right?
Yeah, trying to find it right now. It's here. Yeah, so these are these dude, very low res dude, just to when I need in a concept to just put a figure in the foreground. I'm just saving my old figures, and it's very quick, and because they don't have details, it's very easy to just use them as foreground figure for the scale and so on. But apart from this, I generally don't. I prefer to reuse. Actually, it depends. I was going to tell you on top, but I have cases where I reuse some old models, so it really depends. And yeah, so this was the initial model, which is extremely simple. and I built it in the same time. I was using Keyshot in the other windows.
So this is like your main setup: ZBrush and Keyshot and Photoshop, and then bam, edit pictures.
Yeah, this is most of the time. This is what I'm using. Because ZBrush, it has this really great plugin with Keyshot, which allows to send. It works very smoothly, efficiently with Keyshot. So this is why I love it.
It is also like
Keyshot is very
pre-arranged lighting, and you can still move around it in the scenes.
Yeah. So this is simple scene, very few shapes, and same here, simple lighting. So what I did is I use this shadow caster here, and I've been using their distance.
Basically, by lighting and shadow, you can tell the story. You can design actually the whole composition by that, actually.
Yeah, this workflow is great for this to really concentrate on a. Yeah. And sometimes I'm just dropping a bit of a local color to help one shape to stand out in the 3D to help me to judge the composition. But most of the time, the work happen in Photoshop.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then you can make it painterly sexy looking stuff.
Darek style.
Yeah, so this was the first one. I tend to have I don't know about you guys, but I tend to have a lot of layers, so I end up merging at some point because it starts to become difficult to manage.
Yeah.
You also tend to like enrich colors on the go with like different
underpainting or something.
Yeah, underpainting and textures, and kind of put it in different layer modes, right?
Yeah, I'm going to remove my useless layers just to. So I have like a usual setup now that works for me, and this is to organize things just like that. Where I'm starting to put my my lighting into a folder, and the whole folder is in hard light mode with a 50% gray at the bottom. And what I really like about this is that it really allows me to separate once again the problem of creating an image into very simple steps, and which are having local colors in the I can use any kind of fusion mode I want to decide on my local colors, and then I can bring some textures underneath.
Are your folders and layers always disorganized? It's so nicely named. And
this is a trick that I learned when I was doing comic book coloring, because when you do comic book coloring, sometimes you receive a feedback only when you've done a batch of 10, 12, or sometimes even more pages. And what happens is that sometimes a complete scene has to be relighted, or you have to change the light completely, or you have to change the color mood completely. So you need to have like a standard organization of your layers so you can replicate the changes easily over several pages. So I kept this habit to organize things like that. And yeah, I have my atmospheric perspective, and I'm putting my paint over underneath, so I don't break the atmospheric perspective. I can make any changes I want if I need to. and I'm putting eventually my light FX and so on top of it. I have my adjustments, my color mood. I learned quite a lot of things from color grading from film. I've been following several tutorials about color grading. It's super interesting.
Yeah, even like gathering screen grabs from the movies is something that really teaches you a lot about the mood and the lighting and the different kind of conditions you can put your picture into.
Yeah, these guys they're fantastic because when you see where they start with the movie and this state of storytelling that they can bring just with manipulating the colors where they don't have much room for changes. I mean, everything is moving, so they can't really use a mask to separate character if it's a live footage. I mean, if it's 3D, obviously they can, but for live footage they can't, and they still manage to create these absolutely fantastic moods and very interesting color palettes. So this is why I'm trying to replicate by having my color mood on top of everything. I'm using this very convenient feature of Photoshop where you can mask certain parts of the value range.
And the balance layer can be hidden.
Yeah, it's really very interesting. And yeah, so this is the version after when I start to paint over. So this is the moment where I say, okay, I'm happy with my color mood. I think a good it's here a good base. So at this point I'm starting really to think about breaking my edges, simplifying my textures with the mixer brush, trying to simplify the shapes a lot, and having the texture to work in the composition. Separating at that point, it is really just painting on top of everything.
When I look at this picture, I can tell that you are very truthful to the shapes that you kind of, made up in zebras before. What about if you want to change some kind of shapes, or you want to maybe build up some parts of the buildings? Are you still doing that as well, or you are, kind of more truthful to your 3D base, and then you try to, bring the picture all together rather than change the shapes and, some designs of the elements?
Yeah. Actually, I'm trying. So sometimes I can make a dramatic change to the composition, but generally it doesn't come from me. It will come from the client. The client will ask for a sudden change, and I'm going to make that sudden change because they ask for it. But the thing I learned from my process doing a lot of comic book coloring is that it's much easier to have a clean painting process if your composition and the structure of the image is defined right from the beginning, which is what happened when you are doing comic book coloring, because the drawing is already done and you don't have room to change it because there is it's an artist who did it, so you don't have you are not legitimate to change his work. You're not here to tell, okay, I don't like this drawing. It doesn't work like that. The artist did his drawing. You have to make it stand out with your colors. So I've been trying to replicate the same thing with my process in 3D, which is really decide of the composition very early. This way, it makes everything much easier, because this way of organizing layers, as I'm doing here, it works if the composition doesn't move too much.
Yeah.
Because now if I have to upscale this building,
the shadows will change, everything will change.
Yeah, it's going to be complicated. So I can do it, but later in the process, at that moment here, when I'm flattening everything, and now it's possible to change things.
So does it happen that you just send the rough block out, like rough render of what you blocked it out before to your client, and when they approve it, you're going crazy with details and finish that up?
So it's interesting because that's something I've been developing just for this purpose, is to find a way to communicate my rough 3D without getting the wrong level of feedback. And I'm going to show you the thing I did to achieve that. Because most of the time, what was happening at the beginning is when I was sending a rough 3D block out, I was getting completely wrong feedback. I was getting feedback about the materials, about the shape, I mean, about the fact that it looked too 3D, you know. I would get, but I wouldn't get feedback about the design or about the composition. And what I understand after a while is that apart from experienced artists and art directors who understand the process of working on top of 3D, for most people, it's totally counterintuitive to see some things that look real, but try to project yourself in the fact that this is actually just the beginning of the process. Usually, you start by something that doesn't look real, and you build up your image. And when it starts to look real at the shape volume, it's because you are almost done. So I started for my work in animation to, where is it? Yeah, it's here. To develop a quick process of turning a 3D model into a quick presentation. So this is a completely 3D model, but what I did is I did a quick line render pass. I composed the pass to create a decent drawing out of it. And here it is for a tutorial, so I spend more time than what I would spend in a professional environment. But most of the time, in like around 30 minutes, 45 minutes maximum, I can do a presentation pass with just a line conversion of the model, and I'm using just a quick render pass of the light and indication to create this quick render, just to give an idea. And this way, this helped me to get the proper level of feedback. I'm going to have feedback about the design, about the mode, about the lighting.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is quite already established, you know, for them to just look at and then like decide if we like that design, if we like those shapes or not. And then you can just go for it and, you know, push the final values and textures on top. Yeah, that's
this one is done the same way. This is same approach, but I pushed it a bit for more because I wanted to have this kind of Moebius rendering. But
that's awesome.
Most of
That's what's
that's incredible. Yeah, great stuff.
So
I love the trick with the hard light on the layer with the render. That enables you to actually re-render the same scene in the different lighting, right? And you can just put it.
Absolutely,
and maintain the textures.
This is very great, especially for this kind of things. Like, for example, where is it? Narrative, color, and light. So for color scripting, this is all done from the exact same 3D model, and I did exactly what you said. I simply changed the lighting, and reusing the same texture pass and so on.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's the beauty of using blockouts, and you can just change something so quickly, and then you have like multiply options that you can send to client.
Wow, so that's just one shot in all of those, right?
Sorry?
That's just the same shot in each of those thumbnails, right?
Yeah.
Just different light.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, really awesome.
That's really cool.
So yeah, let's let me share my screen real quick. If you want to learn from Stephane, go to his Gumroad page. There's plenty of really awesome tutorials in here, containing some freebies from what I can see, which is really cool. Yeah, check it out, guys. It's Gumroad/Wootha, and you can find all those tutorials here. And yeah, I think it's looking great. And yeah, you're also a great teacher, going really in depth, not only into technical, but into what's behind your thinking process, and even to the philosophical level, which is not really popular for art teachers to go that deep into, which I really enjoy listening to. And that's really cool to see, and it really shows through your images. They're really powerful in that manner. It's really awesome.
Well, thank you.
Alrighty, thanks a lot for sharing all of that, Stephane. That was awesome. I was in love looking at all of those pieces coming together, and listening about how similar we are in the way we work also. It's really cool to hear. And thank you so much for joining, for sharing your knowledge, and congratulations on your crazy fast progress and beautiful portfolio you have.
It was a proper level up, man.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah, definitely.
That was awesome, man. So yeah, guys, hit the like button if you enjoyed our session here. Subscribe for more. Make sure to follow Stephane on Facebook. Go to his website, check out his stuff. We're really thankful to have you here, man, today. And hopefully next time, in 4 years, you will be like an art god.
Well, thank you again, guys. Thank you for having me, and also thank you for what you've been initiated. And I think I owe you a part of what I've been achieving so far, because all this really fantastic interview you've been putting together, and this great talk I heard on Level Up, it really helped me to get rid of these layers of guilt about not doing things the way everything was doing it. So I'm really glad for all of that. Thanks.
We have to thank our other guests, because we're just a bunch of dudes who sit in our underpants and talk about vodka and stuff. So it's really all the people that have been on every session that have been willing to give their knowledge and experience for free, as a part of their free time that has given us this immense amount of information that we've secretly been stealing from for 4 years. But
we are learning ourselves here, so that's what's keeping it honest, and we are just trying to get better ourselves every day.
That's why we're so quiet, we're just taking notes.
Taking notes. And I got another trick.
Everything is recorded, so we can always come back to that as well. It's just like great, like free tutorials.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, that's awesome. Great to hear. And that was a great session, man. Thank you very much.
Yeah, let's ask our final question then before we wrap up.
Go for that.
Me?
Yeah,
Darek, I will give you the honor, Darek.
Papa.
Oh, thank you. I feel honored. I feel honored right now. So Stephane, if you had to choose, like, would you rather be a Godzilla or a billionaire, and why?
So I haven't thought about this question on purpose, because I wanted to be able to improvise the answer just like I will do right now. This is the most complicated question I've ever been asked. I feel like I've been kind of a Godzilla a part of my life, because I've been feeling so different, and it's been like super complicated. So I think right now I would rather be a billionaire because I would be able to achieve a couple of things, and not only a couple of things for myself, but a couple of things for the world I'm living in. So yeah, if I had to choose, I think I would choose a billionaire.
That's it.
Okay.
I think the ratio is still bigger for billionaire, to be honest.
Yeah,
might be.
Okay, so I'm normal. That's cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, great stuff, man. Thank you very much.
Thanks for tuning in today, guys. Stay tuned for the session 82, which will come next week. What? Next week?
No, 2 weeks.
2 weeks,
No.
I think. Oh, you already have? Okay.
Yeah, I have a guest in mind. Yes.
Oh,
that
okay.
will be next week.
Sorry.
You
See you, man.
lazy.
So we will have one next
lazy
week and in 2
bastards.
weeks then. We
What?
will have, So we will have one next week and the week after. So we will have
Yeah,
2 weeks in a row.
Back to the regular schedule.
Yeah, the lineup is pretty tight. And we will have also some more information to share, but yeah, for now we are good to wrap up. So
yeah, Stephane, thank you again, 4th time. Awaiting those pieces you are showed us today to see them finalized. Good luck with that, and yeah, stay tuned for the next session. See you guys.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.